First Contact Protocol. The warning nobody heeded. Dr. James Rivera stood in the control room of the Arecibo 2 observatory, watching numbers scroll across his screen. For 3 weeks, his team had been tracking an unusual signal from deep space. It wasn't natural. It couldn't be natural. The pattern was too perfect, too deliberate. Run the analysis again, he told his assistant, Maria Chen. Maria nodded and typed commands into her console. The same results appeared. The signal was coming from a star system 47 light-years away. It repeated every 11 hours with mathematical precision. But there was something else. Something that made James's hands shake as he read the decoded message. This is a quarantine warning, the message read. Do not respond. Do not acknowledge. Species from Grid Section 7 Alpha are forbidden from contact under Galactic Preservation Protocol 3. Violation will result in immediate containment. James read it 3 times. Then he called the United Nations. The decision. The emergency meeting included every major world leader. Presidents, prime ministers, scientists, and military generals filled the virtual conference room. James presented his findings to people who had never expected to face such a decision. The message is clear, James explained. Someone out there doesn't want us making contact. They've placed Earth under some kind of quarantine. President Sarah Martinez of the United States spoke first. Dr. Rivera, you're saying aliens exist, and they're telling us to stay quiet? Yes, Madam President. Why? Asked Premier Chen of China. What makes Earth special? James pulled up another screen. That's what concerns me. The message mentions Grid Section 7 Alpha. I've analyzed historical radio signals we've sent into space. Every signal we've ever broadcast has been answered with this same warning, sent from different locations. Someone has been surrounding us, keeping us isolated. The room fell silent. General Hassan from the Global Defense Initiative spoke carefully. This could be a threat. Maybe they're keeping us contained because they plan to attack. Or maybe, said Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Japan, they're protecting us from something worse. The debate lasted 6 hours. Scientists argued for caution. Military leaders demanded answers. Politicians worried about panic if the news leaked to the public. Finally, Secretary General Williams made the decision that would change humanity's fate forever. We respond, he said. Humanity has spent thousands of years reaching for the stars. We won't stop now because of a warning we don't understand. Send a message. Tell them we want to talk. James felt his stomach drop. Sir, the warning was explicit. They said violation would result in containment. Then we'll deal with the consequences, Williams replied. Prepare the transmission. The response. The message humanity sent was simple, we are here. We want to understand. Please explain your warning. The response came in 4 minutes. That was impossible. The nearest star was 4 light-years away. Nothing could travel faster than light. Yet somehow, a ship appeared in Earth's orbit exactly 4 minutes after the transmission. It was massive, larger than any structure humanity had ever built. The ship was dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Sensors couldn't penetrate its hull. Radio signals bounced off without response. Then it spoke. The voice came through every speaker on Earth simultaneously. Every radio, every television, every phone. It spoke in every language at once, each person hearing it in their native tongue. You were warned, the voice said. It sounded tired, ancient, sad. You were specifically warned not to respond. Now we must do what we hope to avoid. James watched from the observatory as smaller ships detached from the massive vessel. Hundreds of them, spreading out across Earth's orbit. What are they doing? Maria whispered. The voice answered as if it had heard her. We are the Preservation Council. For 3 million years, we have maintained the quarantine zones. Species in these zones are isolated for their own protection and the protection of the galaxy. President Martinez broadcast from the White House. Protection from what? Why are we being isolated? Because you are human, the voice replied. Because of what you will become. The truth. What followed was a history lesson that shattered every assumption humanity had ever made. The Preservation Council had been watching Earth for 200,000 years. They had watched humans evolve from small tribes to a global civilization. They had watched us develop language, art, science, and technology. And they had been terrified. In 3 million years, the voice explained, we have observed 10,000 intelligent species develop across the galaxy. Most follow predictable patterns. They grow slowly. They colonize carefully. They respect the boundaries of others. Humans are different, the voice continued. You are the only species we have ever observed that treats the impossible as a challenge rather than a limit. The council showed humanity images from across the galaxy. Species that had reached technological advancement and then stayed there, content with what they had achieved. Species that explored their local star systems and went no further. Species that developed artificial intelligence and then carefully controlled it. You don't do any of that, the voice said. When you face a wall, you break through it. When you encounter a problem you can't solve, you change the rules until you can solve it. When you're told something is impossible, you prove it wrong. Maria looked at James. That sounds like a compliment, not a threat. It's both, the voice answered. Your species invented heavier-than-air flight despite physics saying it was impractical. You split the atom when you barely understood what atoms were. You developed computers that think faster than you do. You reached your moon with technology that wouldn't power a modern calculator. Images flashed across every screen on Earth. Human achievements, human innovations, human stubbornness in the face of impossible odds. Other species take 1,000,000 years to do what you do in centuries, the voice continued. They build slowly, carefully, safely. You build fast, recklessly, brilliantly. You've had nuclear weapons for less than 100 years, and you've nearly destroyed yourselves with them 3 times. Yet you're still here. General Hassan spoke up. So you're afraid of us? We are terrified of you, the voice admitted. The mathematical models are clear. If we allow humanity to join the galactic community, within 5,000 years you will dominate it. Within 10,000 years, you will remake it in your image. Within 50,000 years, you will surpass us in every meaningful way. The world watched in stunned silence. That's why we quarantined Earth, the voice continued. Not to protect the galaxy from violent humans, but to protect the existing order from brilliant ones. We have maintained peace for 3 million years by ensuring no species becomes too powerful, too advanced, too ambitious. President Martinez found her voice. You're saying you've been holding us back to protect yourselves? Yes, the voice said simply. And now that you've broken quarantine, we must make a choice. Either we integrate you into galactic society and accept the inevitable transformation you will bring, or we eliminate you before you become unstoppable. The Preservation Council gave humanity 24 hours to prepare for judgment. Around the world, people looked up at the alien ships in their sky and wondered, were humans about to be welcomed into a galactic community, or destroyed to preserve it, the judgment of Earth? The delegation. The Preservation Council demanded a meeting. Not with world leaders or military generals, but with ordinary humans. They wanted to understand what made humanity so different, so dangerous, so unstoppable. Dr. James Rivera found himself selected as one of 12 humans who would represent Earth. The others included a farmer from Kenya, a teacher from Brazil, an engineer from India, an artist from France, a doctor from Australia, and 6 others from different walks of life. "Yes?" asked David Okonkwo, the Kenyan farmer, as they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the council ship. "Because you're real," James answered. "They don't want to talk to politicians who'll say what they think the council wants to hear. They want to understand actual humans." The shuttle docked with the massive council vessel. The 12 humans were escorted through corridors that seemed to exist in more dimensions than their eyes could process. Colors that had no names. Sounds that came from directions that didn't exist. Finally, they entered a chamber where 7 beings waited. The council members were unlike anything humanity had imagined. One appeared to be made of crystallized light. Another seemed to exist as a pattern of quantum probabilities. A third was a collective consciousness of thousands of smaller entities. Each represented a different ancient species that had joined together to govern the galaxy. The being of light spoke first, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "We are the Preservation Council. We have maintained galactic peace for 3 million years. We have prevented wars, managed resources, and ensured that no species disrupts the cosmic balance." "And you want to know if we'll disrupt that balance," said Sarah Kim, the teacher from Brazil. "We already know you will," another council member replied, this one appearing as shifting geometric shapes. "The question is whether the disruption you cause will be worth the cost." The test. What followed was unlike any interrogation or interview. The council didn't ask questions. Instead, they showed the human scenarios, problems that had faced other species throughout galactic history. The first scenario appeared around them like a hologram they could step into. A civilization faced a choice. They had discovered a new form of energy that could power their entire species for millennia, but extracting it would destroy an ecosystem containing millions of unique life forms. What would humans do? The council asked. The 12 humans discussed among themselves. Dr. Chen, the Australian physician, spoke first. "We'd look for a third option. A way to get the energy without destroying the ecosystem." "There is no third option," the council said. "The physics doesn't allow it." "Then we'd change the physics," said Marcus, the French artist. "Or find a different energy source. Or accept living with less energy." The council members rippled with what might have been surprise. Other species would choose immediately. Some would take the energy. Others would protect the ecosystem. Humans refused to accept the premise of the question itself. More scenarios followed. Each presented an impossible choice. Each time, the humans found angles that other species had never considered. A civilization discovered their sun was dying early. They could save themselves by consuming 3 neighboring planets with primitive life. What would humans do? "Find out why the sun is dying and fix it," said the Indian engineer, Priya. "And if we can't fix it, we'd build generation ships to relocate everyone, including the primitive life forms from those planets. That would take thousands of years. Then we'd better start now." A species faced extinction from a plague. The cure required genetic material from an intelligent but pre-technological species. Taking the material would doom that species. What would humans do? David, the farmer, answered this one. "We'd talk to them. Explain the situation. See if they'd help voluntarily. And if they said no, we'd respect that and look for another cure. Even if it meant your own extinction?" "Even then," David said firmly. "We don't get to survive by destroying others. That's not survival, that's becoming the thing we fear." The council was silent for a long moment. The history lesson. "You need to understand something," the crystalline being said finally. "We have seen what happens when ambitious species are not controlled. 15 million years ago, before the council existed, a species called the Vrex rose to power. They were brilliant, creative, unstoppable, much like you. Images appeared showing a civilization that spanned thousands of star systems. Technology that bent reality itself. Art and culture that inspired entire sectors of the galaxy. They were magnificent," the council continued. "They solved problems other species couldn't imagine. They pushed the boundaries of what was possible. And then they pushed too far. The images changed, showing destruction on a cosmic scale. Stars going dark. Entire regions of space collapsing into nothing. The Vrex discovered how to manipulate the fundamental constants of physics," the council explained. "They wanted to reshape reality itself to eliminate suffering, disease, and death. Their intentions were noble. But they destroyed half the galaxy, James whispered, seeing the devastation in the images. They didn't mean to, the council said. They made one small mistake in their calculations. One tiny error. And because their technology was so powerful, that error cascaded into catastrophe. Billions of species died. Trillions of beings ceased to exist. The chamber fell silent. That's why we formed the council, the crystalline being continued. That's why we established the quarantine zones. We decided that some species are too dangerous to allow unrestricted development. Better to contain them, limit them, keep them isolated until they evolve past their reckless phase. And you think we're like the Vrex, Sarah said quietly. We think you're worse, the council admitted. The Vrex took 1,000,000 years to reach the level where they could threaten the galaxy. Humanity has gone from discovering fire to splitting atoms in 10,000 years. Your rate of advancement is unprecedented. Terrifying. The choice. The council members conferred among themselves in a language that sounded like mathematics and music combined. Finally, they turned back to the humans. We have made our decision, the crystalline being announced. After observing humanity for 200,000 years, after analyzing your development, after testing your responses, we have concluded that humanity cannot be safely integrated into galactic civilization. James felt his heart stop. Around him, the other humans tensed. However, the council continued, we also conclude that humanity cannot be eliminated. You have shown us something we haven't seen in 3,000,000 years, the ability to find hope in impossible situations. The capacity to refuse acceptance of false choices. The determination to protect others even at cost to yourselves. The geometric being shifted forward. You are dangerous. But you are also necessary. The galaxy has been stable for too long. Stable systems become stagnant. Stagnant systems die. What are you saying? Priya asked. We are saying that the quarantine will be lifted, the crystalline being announced. Earth will be welcomed into the galactic community. But with conditions. The conditions were strict. Humanity would have access to council technology, but only after proving they could use it safely. Humans would be allowed to colonize space, but under council supervision. Any human research into reality-altering technology would require council approval. We are betting the galaxy's future on you, the council said. We are hoping that your creativity, your stubbornness, your refusal to accept limits will help us solve problems we've given up on. But we are also watching. Carefully. The new beginning. 3 months later, the first human delegation arrived at the council's central station. It was a structure larger than planets, home to representatives from 10,000 species. James walked through corridors filled with beings that defied description. Some were biological. Some were artificial intelligence. Some existed in states that humans had no words for. All of them stopped to stare at the humans passing by. They're afraid of us, Maria whispered, walking beside James. They should be, James replied. We're about to change their entire galaxy. In the council chambers, humanity was given its first assignment. A star system on the edge of the galaxy was dying, and the council had spent 1,000 years trying to save it. They had failed. Now they wanted to see what humans would do. Dr. Priya looked at the data for 10 minutes. Then she smiled. I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. How crazy? Asked the council representative. We'd need to essentially perform surgery on a star. The council members exchanged what might have been worried looks. Star surgery. Of course she would suggest star surgery. Very well. Show us. 6 months later, the star was saved using a technique that violated 3 supposedly fundamental laws of physics. The council watched in amazement as humans accomplished what they had deemed impossible. This is exactly what we feared, one council member said. And exactly what we needed, another replied. The warning. On Earth, life had changed forever. Children grew up knowing they would travel to other stars. Scientists worked on problems alongside alien researchers. Artists collaborated with beings who saw in different dimensions. But not everyone was happy. In dark corners of the galaxy, species that had benefited from the old order watched humanity's rise with growing anger. The Vreks were gone, but their descendants remained, beings who remembered when ambition had nearly destroyed everything. They watched humans solving problems the Council had given up on. They watched humans pushing boundaries that were meant to stay fixed. They watched humans doing exactly what the Vreks had done. And they began to plan. In a hidden station far from Council space, representatives from 20 species met in secret. They called themselves the Preservation Purists. Their message was simple: humanity must be stopped before history repeated itself. The Council has made a mistake, their leader said. They have unleashed something that will destroy us all. We must act before it's too late. Meanwhile, on Earth, James Rivera looked up at the stars, stars that humanity could now reach, and wondered if the Council had made the right choice. Only time would tell if humanity would become the galaxy's salvation or its doom. But one thing was certain: the universe would never be boring again.